Adele?
Sorry, Rayan, just so the student knows, we record all sessions, so I've just started your recording, so please go ahead.
Great, thank you. All right. Can everybody hear me? Can anybody hear me?
I can hear you, Rayan.
Okay, there was a long lapse. I don't know what happened over there. Okay, so it's just me and the student there. All I can see, I can't see any name, but it's 116333972.
Brittany, is that your student number? Let's see. Can you see the participants?
I can see there. Now I can see. See, the
Okay.
features are coming here. I have never had these features earlier. I think as you're allowing me in, I'm getting more. The only student seems to be 116333972.
You know, now, yeah, let me just see what Brittany says. Okay. Yes, Brittany, she is that student number. Good.
Okay, good. Well, okay, welcome, Brittany. Can you hear me, Brittany?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, all right. Okay, we're having some issues today. I don't know what it is, but good. Okay, shall we proceed then?
Yes, Rayan, go ahead.
Okay. As Adele, I mean, you've mentioned those. I mean, I wonder if it's worthwhile actually dealing with protocols and.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Well, okay, let's get into it. Is it Brittany, eh? Okay, I'm going to share my desktop now. There's one thing that I wanted to present. Can you see that, Brittany?
Yes.
Okay, good. Great. So our time's basically, moved on quite a bit now, and we can just see, whether it's worthwhile now for the rest of the session to go all the way, or whether just to, again, call another meeting. But for our meeting this evening, it is study skills for labor law. My name is Rayan Alom. I've been a student at UNISA. UNISA is my alma mater. I studied at UNISA for many years and completed my degrees at UNISA, and became, after completion, and becoming an attorney by profession. I afterwards took up a tutoring post at UNISA from 2004, and I've been tutoring at UNISA and doing other kinds of teaching along with my law practice for all those years since then. So although our session today is called Study Skills for Labor Law, it is hoped will be able to apply these skills not only in your labor law studies, but in any other study at UNISA. As a UNISA student myself, I understand the difficulties you go through. I've watched how UNISA has grown, from a very classic distance learning education. There is no fixed place to come to learn, and that you pretty much on your own, and then you get taught through, or you end up teaching yourself. You get books sent to you. You have to purchase certain textbooks. You get study guides sent to you, letters sent to you, and then you need to now make sense of all of that. Chances you to have to interact with your actual lecturer was few, and the only contact you really had, I mean, you could write a letter back in those days, send it by a courier or something, but telephone was the other way, and the lecturers were not always that busy. So UNISA has gone through many changes over the years, and this system now that we have, it's still a distance learning and distance teaching facility at UNISA. And, it's an option to many people who don't have an opportunity to attend a full-time university to make use of and to be given an opportunity for tertiary studies in this way. So what I'm going to share with you today, and hopefully impart, are certain basic study skills, but not the study skills so much as is the approaches as to how to approach any module, any learning unit, or any subject at UNISA, taking into account the way that the UNISA teaching system works. Okay. Because I see this is a 2601 code, Brittany. What can I ask? What degree are you registered for?
I'm doing Bachelor of Arts.
Oh, so you're doing a BA, okay? And what are your majors?
My majors are private law, history, and English.
Private law. So upon completion of your BA, what do you intend to proceed with the LLB?
Yes.
And what law subjects have you completed so far?
I did the skills course for law.
Okay.
And I do private PVL.
Private law, yeah.
I do criminal work for law.
Okay.
And social criminal work, SCW.
Because one thing you must understand about the UNISA system is that from the law faculty point of view, there was a time, that they allowed people to register for second year subjects and even mostly second year subjects, although it was perhaps sometimes their first year of study. They were entitled in the law faculty to start registering for a degree course or subject in a degree students. And there were many challenges with it, because on second year level they expect people, or the teachers and examiners, they expect that you have some understanding of law. So if you've already passed private law 1, and that then it's good for you. I mean, that you've done that, because you now have some basic understanding of the legal system. Okay, if this were to be the course, the first time you come into contact with law, it can be sometimes quite daunting. This is how you must understand how the courses are presented and allowed to. You can select these courses, but sometimes you select them, must get some kind of do some checking first and make sure that you're going to take a course that already you have some background knowledge of. Okay, in the legal, in law subjects especially. You said you've done private law. Is it private law 1 or private law 2?
Private law 1.
Private law 1. Okay, and did you do that last semester or last year?
Last semester.
Last semester. And did you pass both the modules?
Yes,
you registered for both?
I had 3 law modules.
Okay, so you must have done the law of persons and family law.
No, I did the skills course.
Okay, the skills course.
And ILW, Introduction to Law.
Okay. That's fine. Now remember, law and the whole degree that you registered for is built upon knowledge that you acquire in your first year, is never to be discarded or neglected. It's something that you will carry with you from your first year right through to your third year. And if you're going to continue with further studies in law, it's important that this knowledge, that you keep it alive, you keep it rehearsed, so that you can will help you with your understanding of the more complex law subjects. Okay. Now, the way I'm going to handle this, Brittany, is, it should be interactive. You're the only student here today, but normally I don't want to be the person that's just talking. I would like to get you to become involved by asking questions, on the material here, and if later on anything that you think you want to know. May I ask, was it just you decided to take label at this stage? Um, you know, this semester you took label. What other subjects did you register for this semester?
The skills, social work for law,
Social work. Okay.
SCW.
So how many courses are those? 3.
I have 5,
5.
including AFL and my history.
So what I can tell you is that, okay, there is the common methods, that people use, students that I found over the years, both from my days of studying as well as when I started teaching students, is that, let me ask you, Brittany, how do you intend to, and what is your method of approaching your studies? Like this course, for example, this is uh, labor law 1, individual labor law. So how are you going to study the subject? What is your plan for studying it? How are you going to approach it?
Like what I do is I like read
Yes.
through the notes that I got, and then I make my own notes.
Okay. So you do summaries of the work. Okay.
Yes, and then like when I do my assignments, I first read the notes, and then I try to complete my assignments, and then I go through the notes again to see if it's correct. My answers are correct.
Mhm. So you make summaries of it, but you make summaries of everything. Okay. Now, if you look at the first method, that is not an uncommon method. That is pretty much along what's on the slide over here. Do you do this? Tell me if you do this. Dividing all the learning units of a module, because basically your degree is a number of modules, right? For BA, what's it? 30 modules?
Yes.
30, maybe 32 modules.
I think it's 32, 30, 30
32.
or 32.
Right. So that is how you must look at it. 32 modules equals BA degree, right? And out
Yeah.
of that now, uh, it has to be divided over a certain period. How many courses you're going to register for? But most students, when they register, just go through this exercise with me. When they register, they see, okay, fine, you've registered now for labor law 2601, right? Individual labor law. Did you also register for 2602?
No.
No, okay. I don't know whether they will allow, that to be registered either at the same time or whether they will allow you to only do 2601. But now the thing is, this is what students do. They look at the number of learning units within the module. Have you done that already with this module?
Yes.
And how many learning
I
units
went
are there?
I went through learning units 1, 2, and 3 so far.
Okay. So just look at this little sentence on the slide. It says, dividing all the learning units of a module over the duration of the semester. Okay. So if the module has 20 learning units, typically what students do is they divide those units over the semester. Right? And they say,
Yes.
well, you told me now you did learning units 1, 2, and 3 so far. Okay?
Yeah.
And then when do you intend to cover the rest of the units for a period over the semester?
Yes.
And now let's read further. And then covering them over a period of time so as to complete it before the end of the exam. Hopefully.
Yes.
Okay. And then use the remaining time to prepare for the writing of the exam.
Yes.
Right? Isn't that what you do? You do this? I mean, we're just looking at methods and how we approach any unique subject. So, you got the advantage with UNISA, and other universities followed suit with this. In the time I studied, they would give you the whole sort of semester plan or year plan as to look, we need to cover that for this year or for this semester. UNISA makes it a bit easier in it tries to contain the material and the scope of the course. So it tells you, look, you need to know the following things. You need to master the following units in order to write the exam. Okay, so you at least have that you know your perimeters, where you need to go and how far you need to go. Okay, and it's important. That's basically how the UNISA system works. That how else are you going to teach some? How many students do you think of UNISA BA, for example, or BCom first year? How many students do you think they have?
About, say,
Couple hundred?
10,000.
Okay, yes, thousands. How many lecturers do you think there are for 1,000 people? How many? If we're going to have a traditional university, then how many teachers do you need? Lecturers do you need to teach face to face? In front of you. You're going to need many lecturers, not so.
Yes.
So now you must understand that mindset, and you must understand how they are trying to teach you, and they also have to teach you up to a level that is acceptable by certain teaching and educational standards. It can't just be nonsense. It has to be, something of substance and well researched. So the point is that they only have so few lectures. Okay, but the students are many. So to be able to teach effectively, they must contain the courses and make it into bite-sized things, over a period. So what do you think? I mean, in the system that you're doing now, I'm just looking. You say you basically follow this method of study that divided over the period, and you hope to cover that. So units 1 to 3 you've covered so far. It took you how long to cover units 1 to 3?
About 2.5 weeks.
2.5 weeks. Okay. So maybe 4 and 5 you cover over what, the next 3 weeks or so, or 2 weeks or so?
3 weeks, yes, I think.
3
3
weeks.
weeks.
Oh, that's fine. Now let's just discuss the pros and the cons of that. Why do you do it this way then, may I ask? Let's look at the pros. Like, the advantages of doing it the way that you do it now. Can you think of why you're doing it this way, Brittany?
I think it's because it's easier for me because I have a photographic memory.
You do.
Yes.
Then you're blessed because, gee whiz, okay. I've got to tell you something, a small secret. I also have a partly photographic memory. So I'll be lucky in that way, which is handy for the study and for the practice of law. Okay, when you have to memorize and to know hundreds and sometimes thousands of things, in small details at times. That's very good. Okay, but now, okay, we use your method as it is on the slide there now. So yes, it gives you time, it works for you. Possibly, could we say that at least you thoroughly go through everything at your
Yes.
particular pace? Right? We could tick that down as like one of the advantages. But now let's say while you're preparing now for learning units 4 and 5 over the next 3 weeks, you see, right?
Yes.
You're hoping to finish 4 or 5, and then you'll continue the balance maybe in October or so, or November or so. What happens if you were to get sick? Or something like that, or something were to happen where you're not able to get to that point, to those learning units ahead of you. What happens if you have to change jobs or do something like that, or something happens that makes it difficult?
Then I would have to revise quickly, like over important things.
Okay. Now that is just the thing. I've seen people. I myself used to follow this method, and over time I realized there's actually perhaps a different approach. You could use this approach here. Just read that for me there, the second point.
Cramming everything a few weeks, sometimes days before the exam, and then intensely prepare and hope to do well.
I mean, having a photographic memory, you could sometimes be tempted to do that. But I mean, that's, many people actually do this and they shouldn't do this. I hope you don't do it, right?
Yes.
Because then you may end up with a situation like this where, you have prepared so much, and depending on how many subjects you have registered for, you may be you put yourself in a bit of a difficulty. All right, that
Yes.
if that were to happen, if you decide to cram, then you're going to be in difficulty, especially if you've got a number of subjects. You only registered for, what did you say? How many subjects this semester?
5.
5. You are okay. Okay. And later on, our further sessions, we're going to come to how time management is effective. It's not impossible to do 5 subjects. If you're a full-time student, for example. I did 5 subjects while working once, and I ended up like this character here on the screen here. I found it to be quite intense to do 5 subjects in a semester, and realized that it was about time. Some people take on many subjects. They in the first year they take on a few subjects, and then they are successful. Perhaps pass 1 or 2 subjects, and then they feel now we're ready for the big plunge. And then they take on 5 subjects or more if it is permitted, only to end up with this difficulty. Okay. When you choose so many subjects that you're not able to keep up, and any problem now throw a difficulty into your create a big problem with your planning. So it's a lot to do with your time management as well, which I said we'll come to later. Okay. Many students, besides that character, we also have people that have done extremely well at UNISA. Did you know that Nelson Mandela completed his LLB degree at UNISA?
No.
And when he completed it while he was incarcerated
Wow.
on Robben Island. Now, how could he have done that? Yes, of course, he's in prison and so on, and he was a disciplined man. You have to, obviously, he's got his own natural traits, but it takes dedication. He didn't have access to lecturers. Look, he didn't have access to his own wife and children, let alone the lecturers at the university. Right? He could phone, he could possibly have written a letter. But those were the days, Brittany, that UNISA were, what it was. Obviously, everything changes, but those were the days where you would register at the beginning of the year. There were no half semesters as we have now. It was a 1-year course that you would do. You'd be given you'd be given study guides, tutorial letters, and you'd have to buy your textbooks, and then you would write, to submit assignments, and on the strength of the assignments, you get admission to the exam, and then eventually you would write your exam. So Nelson Mandela completed his degree while in prison, his LLB degree. So it shows you that it is something, if you are determined to do something, you can achieve it. And I think if ever someone were to ask me who studied at UNISA, we have the best example that we can think of.
Wow.
There are many, many other people also who studied at UNISA and attained, prestigious things and achieved success in many ways. So what approach then should we then have to studies? I mean, if we use that method of dividing the work over a period, that is an approach, and one should use what is helpful for one, But I would like to put something to you guys today, since you're the only one. And I've tried this method, and it seems to have worked, for me quite well. And for people who've adopted it, they've come to me over the years to thank me for actually just changing the approach to the causes that are offered at UNISA. So instead of gradually covering each learning unit in depth, because this is what typically happens. You've done learning unit 1, 2, and 3, and you're on your way to doing 4 and 5, which you've told me it will take you about 3 weeks, right?
Yes.
And typically what students do in this period, Brittany, is they want to go into the unit, they want to make those summaries that you mentioned, they are, and then they also tend to spend a lot of time on it to understand the concepts in depth and properly. Okay. So the disadvantage of this is that it takes a bit of time, and although the advantage is that you might get a deeper understanding of it, but it will take a lot of your time. Okay, and you will not know what the end is. Whenever you get a course, you must know what the purpose and the objects and the learning outcomes of the entire course is. All right. If you did learning unit 1, 2, and 3, you may know introduction to law, you may know position of the definition of an employee, the common law about labor law, the employee relationship, and you might touch on the basic conditions of employment.
Yes.
Right? But you do not, you need to know what is it that they're trying to teach me here. Okay. You must get a holistic approach to the whole course. So instead of making these notes very, at particular periods, like, cover that over this week and that, I want you to try this method and see how it works for you. You must get a sense of what they're actually trying to teach you from the material. So I suggest the following steps. You look, firstly, once you open, and you can try this with all your subjects. First try it with one, but you can try it with any UNISA subject. So you get an overview and outline of the entire course and the learning units. Remember, I asked you, how many learning units are here in the course?
There are 5.
It's actually, is there not 7? Let me just see. Can you see that? Or do you see what do you see now?
The list is
Okay, can you see the tutorial letter?
No.
No. Okay, and now do you see anything?
Nope.
So why did it go now? Okay. Oh, I need to do this. Okay, let me go back to my. Okay. Your 5 learning units. So what you need to do is you must get an overview of those 5. Okay, the fact that you told me these 5 learning units is a good thing because you have an idea broadly what it is about.
Yes.
Okay, so you get an overview. You'll know what learning unit 1 is about, what learning unit 2 is about, and your next step. Because remember, the lecturers are based. You don't have many face-to-face sessions with your lecturer, if ever. But you'll find in your study guides that they always, or often, very often, tell you that which will not be covered in the course. Have you picked that up, Brittany? In many study guides, in many tutorial letters, they say, here's the book, here's the study guide, but look, you don't have to do this for the exam. You don't have to do that for the exam. So as you start to get to the core, because remember, you are pressed for time. This used to be a 1-year-long subject before my day. They've now changed this to a semesterized course. Okay, like you can do the same subject almost within half a year compared to 1 year. The exam papers used to be much longer. The exam papers were not longer, the exam papers were much shorter. We used to have 1-page exam papers, and they were all questions that you were, long discussion questions, which you had 3 hours to complete typically. Now, your question papers are lengthy. when you did your other question, exam questions, exam question papers, they were lengthy question papers with shorter questions. Okay.
My exams were multiple choice.
Exactly. So they are lengthy. So if you look, but are they not lengthy? Are they not mini questions there?
It
In the
was a
law
lot.
exam papers?
Yes.
Yes. In fact, you will see that they don't ask questions longer than maybe 9 or 10 marks.
Yes.
Okay. So the old way of teaching people were like, there's like 6 questions or 4 questions. Each question is 25 marks. And they would question you like that. Now, the whole way of testing students are different. They have lengthy question papers with very specific questions that they ask you. It's not that it's not. In fact, some can argue it's more effective, to examine people like that with shorter, specific questions instead of lengthy discussion questions in exams. So you must understand what you need to do. You have an exam, and the exam will be 2 hours. And you need to answer questions out of 100 marks.
Yes.
Okay, so now you therefore want to get down to the nitty-gritty. So you look at the outline, the number of study units, the name of the study units. You will remove what's not required. And then what I found is it's a good idea to draft a mind map. Like an outward bird's overview of the entire course. Right? You told me there's 5 learning units there, right?
Yes.
So those learning units will cover the introduction. Learning unit 2 may cover the basic conditions of employment act, especially. Learning unit 3 could cover the Employment Equity Act. Learning unit 4 could cover social legislation. Things like, in fact, it's not covered. Your study guide, that is an area that's not covered for exam purposes. And learning unit 5 will cover things like dismissal, unfair dismissal, which is basically one of the important parts of this course. Okay, so they're trying, so they are trying to deal in this course with the main areas in labor law. Okay, labor law, as you will later learn, I mean, if you're going to, do you intend to practice law? Like become an attorney or an advocate or something?
Yes.
Okay.
And an attorney.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. So do you know to already start preparing your career path, setting yourself up now already, so that by the time that you enter the workplace, which is not far off for you, that you are ready and in a good position and you know where to go and look and what to do, to make yourself ready.
I do court observations.
Excellent. That's exactly what I did as a student. And where have you gone to courts? Which courts have you gone to?
Mitchell's Plain,
Right?
Magistrate Court.
Which courts there now? The magistrate's court is a big area, not so. Is there only one kind of court there?
There's the part for criminal, and then there's small claims court.
Yeah. See, I know that court, yes. It serves a large community. It's very active. They've got the criminal division and also the civil division. And as you know, in the civil division is further separations between district magistrates and regional magistrates. Right?
Yes.
So maybe later we can chat about that in some detail. But labor matters in particular, there's a whole route that's taken. You won't be able to go to the CCMA and observe proceedings there, really. Well, you can ask, those proceedings are also like most court proceedings, they are open to the public. But because they are arbitrated and so on, the parties will sometimes have a problem. The arbitrator may tell you not to come there, the CCMA. You've heard of the CCMA, right?
Yes.
Right. Go and visit there sometime. And then, of course, there's the labor court that deals with matters, just labor-related matters that either come directly to the labor court because the Labor Relations Act or legislation requires it, or they come via having been referred from the CCMA, from the other bargaining councils to the labor court. Okay. So
Yes.
coming back to this now, Brittany, you need to get a mind map of that course. You've got doing 5 subjects. So you should, if I were you, I would do a mind map as I've detailed like that now. All the learning units, naming them, removing that's not coming in the exam, so you don't waste time on preparation. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't. Those things that are not coming in the exam, it doesn't mean you shouldn't read them. You should read them because you want to get the better picture of the course. But for your exam purposes, well, I don't have to go and do extra, repetition and revision on it. So you draw a course, a mind map of every subject that you're doing. And you can do one for every subject and paste it in your study area. So that at one glance, when you look at it, okay, for labor law, I have to cover those 5 units over there. What's unit number 3 about? Oh, yes, the Employment Equity Act. What is the Employment Equity Act about? Oh, yes, unfair discrimination and, things like the dispute of right and the dispute of interest and how you can't have, unfair discrimination in the workplace regarding probation, promotion, demotion, benefits, training, and all these things. That is how your mind will look in law because you have to always, sometimes you must zoom in, sometimes, not all the time. You need to zoom in on a particular issue to get to the very deep core of the thing. And sometimes you can get so lost in that, you look at the tree, but you don't realize sometimes, oh, there's a forest. So you need to pull out of it. And having that set up around the study area, where you've got a summary, a mind map of every one of your subjects, will allow you to keep focus and to control your learning to some extent. Okay. That is why I say print that map out, place it in your study area, and even use colors and markings, to help you remember certain things. Now we come to the main part of it. Why would I ask you to do this? I'm saying that when you first come to it, once you've done that, go through the course and do your first cycle. You with me, Brittany? What I'm trying to say here?
Yes.
That you have so far done learning unit number 1, took me 2 weeks. I have no clue what learning unit 5 is, but I must follow my schedule. Learning unit 1 it took me 2 weeks. Learning unit 2 took me a further 2 weeks. Okay, it took me 3 weeks actually because time, and it was complex works about all these things, about the duties of the common law, employee-employee relationship, the locatio conductio operis, the locatio conductio operarum, vicarious liability, the strength of trade, all these things, right? Because you do have the textbook, right?
Yes.
Right, McGregor, labor law rules, 3rd edition. That's the textbook for the course, right?
Yes.
Right. So now there's some things there that will require some explanation. I mean, I know many students struggle to get to understand it deeply, but it may take you long on a certain unit than the others. So instead of doing that, I'm saying go through all the units now. You put it on the wall there. You've got those 5 units. It's a lot of work, but I'm daring you now, and I'm suggesting go through all of them now and see, okay, what is this about? Roughly read it, and it might not make sense, and it's a good idea that it doesn't make sense because you have gone through the work. It will take you a little Will take you, don't spend too much time. You're not going to read this for the purposes of understanding it. You're going to read it and go through it for the purposes of getting an idea of what the course content is about, just to give you an idea. Okay, and you will make basic points. You will create what I call a skeleton of the whole thing. Okay.
Yes.
So then you know, okay, what is Learning Unit 3? Okay, we know it's the Employment Equity Act. Learning Unit 2 is the Basic Conditions of Employment Act. And that is a lot of work there that you need to cover. You know, leave, working hours, working conditions, you know, the prohibitions, what doesn't apply, all these things. Right? So you're not going to go into depth. You're not required to remember. You're required to make your skeleton structure of it. So that's why I'm even saying here, it can sometimes be a bit, you know, scary, and it can be daunting, because you will start to feel, oh, do I have to cover all of this? But that's the time. You must just continue to cover so you have an idea. So within your first week of study, you have a small idea about what Learning Unit 5 is about. What is Learning Unit 5? If you're going to use the first method, you're only going to cover as you go on. You're not going to even look at Learning Unit 5. The only time you look at Learning Unit 5, perhaps, is if the assignment says, oh, you'll be covering this in the assignment. Right? But if you've gone through the learning units and through the cycles, then you will start to connect the difficult issues. You'll start to connect one subject with another subject. And that is ultimately how you start to get a better understanding of the subject. And you can apply this method in any of your other law subjects. So here, you go through your first cycle, you make your skeleton structure, what it is about, and it should actually make you a bit, you know, like concerned, should motivate you. That, okay, fine, there's quite a bit of work I need to cover here. If I'm going to go on this old method of week by week, cover unit by week, then I may not end up there. So you do that and you make a basic structure. You then go on to do your second cycle. And in this cycle, you start adding more information to your skeleton structure. And this time you start to add more information, more of your own understanding of the material. Okay, but at least you know, oh yes, that will come up later on in Learning Unit 5. It will come up later on in Learning Unit 4. This is what is meant. You understand? So
Yes.
you add on extra information, but what you're going to discover, and is that, gee whiz, I must continue here, make a cycle. I don't even understand what this is. What is this about? Vicarious liability. Okay, I've got a small idea. You just make the main notes. Vicarious liability. I'll come back to this in my second cycle or in my next cycle. But that is where your tutor and your lecturer comes in. It is where you're struggling to understand the concept. Many people make the mistake, Brittany, that when they're busy going, they spend too much time on an issue that they don't understand. Right? And that is where UNISA is assisting with things like this, and with tutorials, and with support structures that they have. With you can't spend too much time on one particular issue that if you don't understand, you have to come back to it. Okay. The main thing behind this method is that you have gone through all the material that was asked for you to go through many times as you could for the semester. That is how you get mastery of your subject. If you're going to go only as the time you work it out, time, I'm going to cover units 1, 2 weeks, units 3 in 2 weeks, and so on. You are gonna, and you're strict about it, you are not going to get that motion. You're not going to get that fluidity in your study. Okay, and you will start to see the difference in your understanding very quickly. Even if tonight you go through that, don't leave Learning Unit 5 till 3, 4, 5 weeks from now. Go to Learning Unit 5, as you go through your cycles. Get to know what it's about. And as you go through it so many times, you start to connect your, the material. Okay. And this, I will tell you, has proven, I mean, I can tell you, I mean, years of teaching people and students that they've come back and have found this method to be very helpful. What do you think about it? Are there any questions, Brittany?
I think it's a good method.
Do you think you'll adopt it?
Yes.
Good, good. It will take you, it will take you, if you want to be brave, you can actually do it in a night.
Right.
You can do it that's the whole idea. The whole idea with any concept, Brittany, is to make a complex concept simple. Einstein said that, he said that the reason why you can't explain something simply is because you do not understand it. So in law especially, you get complex concepts that you must make easy. Okay, and you benefit not only yourself, of course, but you benefit the people that you are going to be serving and appearing before, like judges and magistrates and arbitrators and commissioners. They're overburdened with information. They stand behind or sit behind files and mountains of files. So if you can make and summarize and get an issue, make it as simple as possible for them, they appreciate it. Okay. If a court would like to know why it must decide what it must decide and why it must decide. There's no wisdom or benefit in making things complex. It's making them simple that counts. All right. Now,
Yeah.
do you have any questions before I continue?
No.
Try it. I'm telling you, you can do this maybe even tonight in a day or
I
two. You can actually do it, and then you'll know, okay, this is what they're trying to teach you. They even tell you in the study guide, you must be able to, you must acquire, understand the concepts, these learning outcomes. Every study guide at UNISA tells you the purpose of this course is to achieve the following learning outcomes. All right. You know that in the study guide there?
Yes.
So at the end of the day, they want you to understand these concepts and to be able to relate it to practical examples. Just like if you were to be studying surgery, medicine and surgery, there's all these textbooks on surgery that the medical students study. But at the end of the day, ideally, if you want to be a success in that, you can talk about the theories of surgery and the anesthetics and the procedures and the places and the methods, but can you do that? Can you actually do it? That's the way that you measure your competence at anything. If you can take in the theory that you've studied and to be able to show your understanding of it and implement it. Okay, so I think there is one more thing that I wanted to cover before we can call it a day. The cycle method, the holistic approach, okay, as you can see, forces you to cover everything, but you must try and do as many cycles as you can. And the more cycles you do, the more proficient you become, instead of going piece by piece, piece by piece. Now, along with the notes, remember in every cycle you must make these little notes and add on the notes and add on the notes, right? And add on the notes in every new cycle that you make of the material, till you reach a point where you now can understand it properly and you can implement it. Now, along with that, and what is also a very good tool that that you can employ, and that will cement your understanding and improve your memory in studying law subjects in particular, long-winded things, and is to prepare Q&A cards. Have you ever heard of this technique before?
No.
I've seen this adapted, and I've tried this myself as a student. And what I found is that, in my more senior years, I used to, instead of, when I used to go through chapters and stuff, you have to do this as you go along. If I tell you something, students, when I try and teach students and give them information, the information may be, understood and absorbed by the student, but very often students understand the working class, but come the following week, Brittany, they have forgotten all about it. Why? Have
Yes.
you experienced that or saw that? It's because, there's a distance between the material, the time that they spend with the material. And also because if you tell somebody something, yes, the person may accept it or may remember it or not. But the Q&A method is actually a nice way to keep the material in your mind and to take you throughout your academic years. It's instead of writing down only answers to anything, it is perhaps a good idea to write down questions. If you
Yes.
must learn, if you are asked to state 10 facts, what are the presumptions, or to state the presumptions under 200 capital A of the LRA, the presumptions of employment, the following things, unless unstated or proven otherwise, if one of the following factors are mentioned, or found in the contract of employment, is a presumption that the person is indeed an employee. You know what I'm talking about, right? I mean, you've done learning unit 1 and 2 so far, right? That presumption of employment. Does it sound familiar, or is it still something that you must cover, or?
It sounds familiar.
Okay. So instead of writing that down only, it is very good to write down the question. To prepare all your notes that you make in the form of questions with the answers readily available. Now, what I found people do, and I thought this was like a sort of like a high school thing, some people do this, but at university it works just as well. Any place where you need to retain information all the time. If you will forget a statement very easily, a piece of information very easily if if you're just told what it is. But if you're constantly asking yourself a question, what are you forced to do?
To go look up the.
It forces you to think and to recall and to go back, like you said, to go look up. If I come to you and say, Brittany, the following factors are what will be, if they found in a contract of employment, that the law will assume that it is a contract of employment. Okay, thank you. I just forgot that a second ago. But if you write down the question, what are the requirements? And now, what is he talking about? So keeping questions or writing down questions along with answers and recording them, and in the form of either cards or in a book or something, are very effective ways to retain information and to develop the mind, because you're always in a state of asking questions, and your mind wants to answer them, and your mind becomes sharper that way. Okay, so along with the holistic approach, the Q&A, the question and answer card system is very effective when you must remember things. And, questioning yourself, not only when you're going to have study time, but questioning yourself at random times is sometimes a good thing. And after a while, your mind will become so in tune that your other subjects will become easier, because all the time you're thinking about what is the answer to the question. All right.
Yes.
Okay. I think we can. Adele, are you there? Adele? Okay. Is she there? Do you see Adele?
Yes, I see her. She's here.
Anyway. Okay, I think for that we'll cover that for now. Tomorrow is another session, what's it? LLW2602,
Mm.
which is for a collective labor law. You are doing
I
2601.
I'm two and two. I say I have two as well.
Oh, I thought you said, oh, I didn't understand it then. So this will be repeated there. And also, if you need assistance with the work, you can request a session with me as the facilitator, and I can see how I can assist you.
Okay.
You know
Thank you.
about that, eh? You can request
Yes.
sessions, and then we'll have like a session like this, and then we'll deal with your issue, whatever it is. Okay.
Yes.
Are you
Yes.
studying by your own, or do you have like study buddies, or what do you do?
I study on my own.
Okay, okay. We just get hold of Adele, but she's not responding.
I think ours is paused.
You mean muted?
I see there's like a pause sign on her name.
Pause. How come I don't see that? Okay. On hold. Outside the
Yes.
organization. Okay, it says there. Okay. So what career-wise, what do you want to practice as an attorney?
I want to do constitutional judge. I want to be a constitutional judge.
Well, as you know, that's like it's unlikely it will happen. Like the, the road to becoming a judge. It's a road. It's not like an
Yes.
immediate destination. It's something that you have to set yourself as a goal. Um, it's definitely not an impossibility. I mean, like you can prove yourself academically, and just understand what roles judges play. How does a judge get? How does a judge get appointed? You know.
I don't know.
So this is how you need to prepare yourself. Look up tonight. Go to Judicial Services Commission, the JSC,
Yes.
okay? And you go read up there about how judges get appointed. And what their role is.
Yes.
And look, it's nice to be a judge. I mean, you need to, in the sense that it's an honorable thing. It's also a role with immense responsibility. And but if you work hard towards it and have that inclined, then who knows? You can. Judges are not only on the high court benches. They're also magistrates in the lower court. But these judges in all the high courts, in Supreme Courts of Appeal, Constitutional Court. But it's not impossible. Definitely possible if you continue to work very hard. Can you attain?
Yes. And also, like, I don't know because I'm in this foundation with one of the officials in Parliament.
Which foundation is
So,
that?
the Lungile Muchotwana Foundation.
Okay, where's that?
It's here in Cape Town, but they gave me a bursary, and so when I'm done studying, they going to offer me a job in Parliament.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So,
And so you'll know now. I mean, there's other career advice I'd give you here. That sometimes you have to be realistic about your expectations, right? I mean, you're going to study and you're going to be getting your degrees, but it is you must also prepare. If I don't become a judge, and remember, judges are people that there's few young judges, people that are appointed because of the experience and the knowledge. So, but it's not impossible. You should ideally prepare yourself for, for work. You already said in Parliament. Become a parliamentary advisor, and increase your knowledge in constitutional law, administrative law, the Bill of Rights, human rights law, all these things that will help you drafting contracts, understanding legislation.
Yes.
A couple of my colleagues are parliamentary advisors, and it's a different career in the sense that it's part of legal knowledge is required, but it's not like practicing law in that sense. Go to court. Here you monitor or you advise parliamentary committees, get bills, repair things. It's it's a lot of work as well.
Yes.
Okay, let's call it there then. If you've got no further questions, Brittany, maybe tomorrow evening we have another session and we can chat again. But I will probably have to repeat what I'll continue with the program that I have. My program for tomorrow would be time management. We're talking about time management. Okay?
Okay.
And see how important that is for studies. I mean, I did make mention of it today, but that is so important that it cannot be understated.
Yes.
Really, it's worthy of a special session on that. Okay.
Okay.
I shall see you then tomorrow.
Yes.
How can we get hold of Adele?
I'm here.
Okay, Adele, you're back.
Yes.
You were quiet here for a while and we called you out. Yes, Adele?
I said thank you, Brittany.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you tomorrow evening. I'm going to send out another email, just as a reminder. And let's see if you receive the meeting invite, because I'm going to include you in that now as well, Brittany.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Keep well.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, Rayan.
Okay, Adele, that was recorded.
Yes, that was recorded, so I'm going to stop the recording now.